Welcome to the Zinnov Podcast series on Hyper-Intelligent Automation or HIA. HIA is a technology born from the confluence of AI and RPA, evolving from a conventional automation tool to a strategic enterprise game changer. In this series, we bring to you our conversations with leading automation gurus and industry mavericks on how they are defining new possibilities and business outcomes through automation.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Zinnov Podcast Hyper-Intelligent Automation series. I'm Nischay Mittal, Principal and Global Head for Automation and AI at Zinnov, and I'll be your host today. 2020 was a power-packed year for automation, and COVID propelled a never-seen-before enterprise demand for automation. We also saw multiple high-profile acquisitions and a continued inflow of VC investments. While 2020 was a great year for hyper-intelligent automation or HIA, we expect the momentum not only to continue, but also to amplify manifold as we enter 2021. In order to throw more light on some of the key defining trends within the automation space, I have with me today Alex Lyashok, CEO of WorkFusion. Alex is an industry veteran with over 20 years of experience, and in his latest stint with WorkFusion, he is leading the charge to propel the platform as a major player within the hyper-intelligent automation space. We are absolutely thrilled to have you with us today, Alex. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Nischay. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Alex. So let's dive right in and learn from you and your perspectives of the market. So Alex, you have been at the helm of this innovative and fast-growing company since the last 6 years, and you have successfully been able to carve out a niche for WorkFusion during this period. What have been some of the key highlights or learnings for you over these 6 years?
It's a great question, Nischay. I think the last 6 years capture almost the whole existence of hyper-automation or RPA as a concept. And so during these years, we have seen, I would say, probably 3 stages. First is disbelief and denial. First, reports from Gartner saying that RPA is a fad, that automation should only be done through APIs and coding. Then gradual growth over the next couple of years of automation companies unlocking the value trapped in people wanting to automate but not having access to the tools that help them do that. And then finally now coming out of COVID, coming out of pandemic with pent-up demand, automation accelerating and is becoming truly one of the major lines of investment for every technology and every operations leader. And so through these 3 phases, I think we've learned a lot. WorkFusion, as you've pointed out, has its focus on its own area, regulated service industries. We primarily target banking and insurance today. And we've learned that some ideas, take longer to get accepted fully, but once they do, they really explode. And I think that pretty much describes the journey of WorkFusion.
Got it. And Alex, I think none of the conversations today are complete without a mention of the COVID pandemic or scenario which happened last year. So, and we all know that COVID has had a transformational impact on the automation needs of enterprises, right? So, what was your experience during the COVID times, and how do you think automation helped alleviate the challenges of some of your enterprise customers?
We focus, Nischay, as I mentioned, on specific segments. Within banking and insurance, we saw a dramatic disruption in document-intensive processes, and that was true for both undigitized channels of interaction with customers, where we saw paper-intensive processes come apart because people were no longer able to come and submit documents in person, and on digitized channels where the volumes of interaction have spiked dramatically. So I think both on undigitized and digitized side, COVID has accelerated dramatically the needs for automation. People needing to move their customers towards much more digital channels of interaction, but then also becoming much more effective in how they handle customer interactions. And automation tools play an important part, I think, in that, in the sense that they help understand the data that is submitted by the customers, and they help process it much more effectively, thereby creating much more agile operation that helps organizations not just deal with the pandemic, but come out of this crisis stronger. Because that's what we saw, that companies that have leaned in into 2020, into that very difficult period with investment mindset, they were able to capture market share. They were able to launch new products and make progress in their markets. And I think in part that could be credited to automation.
Got it. And the other big trend, Alex, which came out of the COVID pandemic was this massive uptake of cloud deployments, right? We saw huge enterprise demand for cloud. And being in the banking and financial services domain, do you think large enterprises today are more comfortable with hosting their mission critical workloads on cloud, or is the cloud growth being propelled by the smaller or mid-sized market logos? So what's been your overall experience with respect to cloud deployments since last year?
I think cloud adoption is progressing across all segments, small, medium-sized companies, and also very large organizations. We definitely focusing on the larger part of the market, and we saw a lot of organizations embracing cloud and really taking another look at what capabilities they own in-house, what capabilities they build versus what capabilities they consume from their partners more generally, but more specifically from the cloud. And I think there is also to this, on this cloud topic, there is come for the tools, stay for the network type dynamic where initial adoption of cloud is usually prompted by time to value. Can we get these servers spun up for faster? Can we get access to service faster? But suppliers that are able to deliver value from the cloud, whereby each customer benefits from other customers being on the platform, they create additional dynamics accelerating adoption. For example, in WorkFusion's case, intelligent automation cloud customers of our product, are able to benefit from machine learning and artificial intelligence enabled bots that are being run by other customers on the platform. So if you train a bot, other customers can then benefit from your training, and you can benefit from the training done on their bots. And so, initially, cloud adoption may be prompted by urgent needs in being able to reduce the cost and reduce time to value in just rollout of the service. Organizations like ours that also create additional value through network components of the cloud, I think, create additional imperative for companies big and small to move to a cloud way of consuming things.
Alex, you mentioned an important trend around this whole multi-platform or multi-vendor environment which we're in today, right? Even at Zinnov, we've been tracking more than 500 platforms which are now targeting this whole automation space. Do you think enterprises today have really matured in going beyond a single automation vendor to working comfortably in a multi-vendor environment? And do you expect this trend to continue as we go on?
No, I don't think the market has matured yet. By no means. I think we haven't gotten to the point where automation is such a commodity that it doesn't matter which platform you use. So I think while there are many offerings, there are still those that differentiate pretty easily, be that through their vertical focus on the types of personas and use cases that they target, or be that through their pricing or positioning mechanisms. We focus on the needs of large organizations, primarily banks that are north of $5 billion of assets under management, or insurance companies that are having volume of underwriting documents and claims that merits automation. But there are companies that focus on other types of personas. There is open source automation tools focused on IT users. There are companies out there focusing on the needs of small and medium-sized businesses. And I think those needs vary. I don't think a big bank or an insurance company needs the same things that a 2 to 3 people accounting firm does. Neither do I think that somebody in IT department has the same way of thinking or the same capabilities of developing automation person in human resources department. And so through those varying needs, inevitably there is fragmentation in a space where tools that focus on business needs are able to get market share. Obviously, not all segments are equal in the sense that some are much larger than the others. But overall, I think we still are discovering the needs of the customers. I think we're still developing capabilities to match those needs. I speak for the whole space, I think. And we're in very early days of capturing this opportunity.
Got it, Alex. And building a bit upon the aspect that you touched upon earlier, I think there are two broad schools of thoughts, right? When we look at the automation space, one is we see platforms which are going the breadth route and focusing on all the horizontal use cases for automation. The other kind of platforms we see is who are going the depth route and focusing on two or three big use cases or focusing on a specific industry or verticalization, right? Which strategy do you think works the best with enterprises, Alex? Or do you think it's a hybrid strategy of approach, that's really working best?
I think from the enterprise standpoint, hybrid strategy in early days of the market makes sense, just because most organizations are still developing capabilities to deploy automation at scale. And so in that, they need to learn. And so they need to use multiple tools. Having that said, I think most organizations that have well thought out enterprise architecture will end up with a combination of tools. For the business architecture that they have, whereby some capabilities touch many different areas, they will have a horizontal platform that handles that. And for areas of the business where they need them more agile or differ a lot, they will use more specialized tools. I think we see this in other areas of technology, such as analytics or data management, and I think we'll see similar trends emerge here. The question is, I think, also for on the supply end, which strategy is better for technology vendors to embrace? And I think hybrid strategy on that end doesn't bode well for the company. I think organizations need to decide whether they focus on these horizontal use cases or whether they bring value through those that have needs that differ, and stick to that, just because they can then become more effective and deliver more value for their customers. And clearly, I think we see some leaders emerging in horizontal space, and I think we see some leaders emerging in more vertical spaces. I think when we talk about WorkFusion, our leadership position in Gartner Magic Quadrant or Forrester RPA Wave doesn't come from the fact that we are best at giving kind of good enough tools to a broad set of users and personas for a variety of use cases. I think our positioning is pretty clear in that when there is a lot of different ways to automate, but when things come to banking and insurance, WorkFusion is by far the best choice. And so we've committed ourselves to this strategy, and I think it's being recognized by the enterprises. When we talk to buyers, head of know your customer operations or head of treasury operations or head of home lending within banking, or somebody who is responsible for intake of underwriting forms at an insurance company, they in most cases know that there are options for them in terms of automation tools that they rely on. But when they see that there is a solution that solves more of their problem, gives them a whole product for an automation opportunity that they have, we see them increasingly committing to specialized vendor needs, and that's where WorkFusion shines.
Got it. And Alex, being heavily focused on the banking and financial services industry, which is your forte, what are some of your learnings in dealing with the highly legacy-driven banks, right, or enterprises within the BFS space? What do you think are the best practices that you can maybe provide to some new and upcoming automation startups who are looking to enter the BFS industry?
Yeah, it's a great question, Nischay. I think the learning for us is in many ways kind of deeper understanding of how disruption works. And for us, as I think it did for many other technologies, disruption happens by starting in pockets of unlocking value where the users are underserved. For automation, underserved users were operational associates, operational leaders who didn't have access to technology that they could consume, that they could deploy. And so by giving them technology kind of in a bottom-up way where they can easily start, easily get going, don't need specialized skills, and then can over time tackle bigger and bigger problems, automation unlocked the value that exists for enterprises in getting that capital, that human capital, do more for organization, for the customers. So I think is the case with any new areas, in that it is not probably a good idea to go and try to convince a bank to replace their payment platform as a startup. Neither I think it is a good idea to create a startup that goes and says, look, you need to have a new core banking system. These are very long decision cycles. And so I think, a startup would probably run out of money before they get, a handful of customers. I think for young organizations, it is extremely important to understand where broad slices of value are trapped within an organization because the users are underserved by technology. And then understand why, these big legacy systems are unable to do that, and package technology in a way that makes it usable, and through that unlock that value, and that value will translate to value for customers and the organization. And some of that value can be then captured by a startup, and gradually organization can become stronger and stronger and start tackling bigger and bigger problems, including some of the, fundamental, and then eventually become a big building block in a bank or an insurance company in terms of their technology stack. But I think it is a lot easier to start by being focused and focus on where the value is trapped. And that's I think a great departure point for any younger organization serving a bank or an insurance company.
Sure. Very astute observations, Alex. Thanks for sharing these learnings. And looking ahead, Alex, what's in store for WorkFusion in 2021? Any key announcements or product features that you're personally excited about?
Yeah, Nischay, happy to talk about that. We're at our most excited at this point. I am certainly feel most optimistic that I've ever been in terms of thinking about opportunities for WorkFusion and for automation space more broadly. That excitement comes from the fact that, as we've talked, customers are really leaning into cloud way of delivering automation. Customers accelerating digitization of their undigitized channels and want to become more effective in their digitized channels and use automation for that. And that translates to what we can do for them and future opportunities. And I think they're vast. I think there is so much more that still remains to be done relative to what has been accomplished in the first 6 years. Companies that have ingredients for success, they will be successful. And certainly WorkFusion focusing, being in this very active, perhaps the most active segment of B2B, business to business software, focusing on the segment of banking and insurance, which is the largest segment of that industry. Certainly we are very excited. And Nischay, I also want to mention, we haven't really announced it publicly quite yet, but are starting to talk about that investors are also very eager to deploy resources against this opportunity. And so WorkFusion in the past few weeks has worked with investors to secure another round of financing. We raised over $200 million to go after this opportunity. I think this speaks to the fact that the first wave of automation focus on broad set of use cases across multiple industries is very active and still unfolding, but also the time for industry-focused specialist companies to become big is now. And so we now have resources to go into 2021 to aggressively bring our capabilities to customers in North America, which is our core geography, in Europe, where we also focus and globally. And we're also very excited about building new technology and packaging it in a way that solves some of the problems that we talked about. Ultimately, our focus is on making this technology as easy to use as possible, because we think, as I mentioned, it is very important to enable users that do not have access to technology with the tools that they can easily use. We at WorkFusion do not believe that billions of people at work will all learn to code. We think coding is great, but we think that there is no need to code to create software systems that are helpful. We think with artificial intelligence and machine learning, technology can mimic a person, and through that make it easier to create software bots that do useful things. And so ease of use is another axis where we're planning to deploy a lot of this capital. So to summarize, I think, Nischay, 2021 is going to be, in the 6 years that I've been at WorkFusion, I think we haven't seen it as good of a year as we will see in the next 12 months.
Wow, that's wonderful news, Alex. Thanks for sharing your product roadmap, and congratulations to you and the entire WorkFusion team for the new funding round.
Thank you.
Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. We truly look forward to witnessing how your story unfolds in 2021. I'm sure this session will prove to be the guiding light for several automation leaders on how to really reimagine their approach and strategy towards this fast paced industry. Thanks once again for tuning in. We will be back soon with more action packed podcasts to help simplify the complexities within the automation space and help you redefine your automation journeys. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks again, Alex, for joining in.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Hyper Intelligent Automation Series. Stay tuned for more such interesting episodes. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. To get more insights on how you can make your automation strategy count, connect with us at info@zinnov.com or visit our website www.zinnov.com. Follow us on LinkedIn at Zinnov for regular updates on our content. Thank you again for listening to the Zinnov Podcast.